Today I have another interesting lens to show you. This is the TTArtisan 50mm f0.95 manual focus lens. The one I have here is for the Fuji X mount, but it also comes in the E mount, the Z mount, the RF mount, the L mount, and even in micro four third mount as well. But it's an APS-C lens, so the images will be cropped on full frame cameras. I've never tried TTArtisan lenses before, but this lens feels very solid and the design is quite interesting. It definitely feels a lot more expensive than it really is because this lens is only $219. The front glass element is massive, being an f0.95 lens. You can see the aperture opening and closing inside it. And I was very excited to try this lens, and what I quickly realized is that it's not exactly easy to nail the focus at f0.95 with manual focus. And with the maximum shutter speed of 1/4000th of a second with the Fuji XS20, I often had to pull back to 1.1 or 1.4, but once you get the focus and the exposure right, as expected, you get really nice full frame like backgrounds and beautiful dreamy images overall. Looking at the optics closely, I also realized I wasn't necessarily missing the focus. This is just not really a sharp lens wide open. As you can see, it's quite hazy, or maybe the sharpness is actually there, but there's really not much contrast. But there's not a lot of distortion or vignetting, and the overall contrast and sharpness improves a little bit when you turn it down to 5.6 or f8. So obviously not the most optically impressive lens that I've ever seen, but the thing is, I actually don't mind it. I don't really care that it's not sharp wide open because the images still look very nice to me. This will be a good lens to people who want more unique character from a lens rather than just clinically sharp images. This lens kind of reminds me of the old Canon EF 51.2 lens, which was pretty terrible optically by today's standards, but it was still one of my favorite lenses. This was shot at f16 and we can see how the background changes as you increase the aperture. This is f8, 5.6, 4, 2.8. I feel like there's a big jump there, and then f2. And this is where the background starts to really melt away nicely. 1.4, 1.1, and 0.95. And now you can't even recognize what's in the background. You get a really nice compression, and there's that haziness that I mentioned before, but I kind of like it. I think it adds something to the image without looking too soft. And now let's take a look at some Pokeballs, and at 0.95 the circles are very smooth and round. I might have some dust on the lens here, but no distracting shapes, and other than some green fringing here, it looks pretty nice. And as you stop it down, you can see more of the aperture blades, and they get smaller and smaller as you get all the way down to f11. So the TTArtisan 50mm f0.95, it's not the sharpest lens, it's manual focus, but its images are very unique, it's very affordable, and the lens itself feels very nice. So if you're looking for something different, something fun to experiment with, I would highly recommend trying one of these.